And we're live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. I am your humble host, JFQ, and with us tonight is Brutus, and we have a lot to talk about. We'll see if anyone else joins us, but if not, I think there's definitely enough going on to run a full podcast here. So thanks for joining, Brutus. It's good to see you, man.
It's great to be here. Greetings to all and sundry. My lovely and talented girlfriend, who may be the only person who watches. I don't know.
We have a couple other fans. There's usually we at least break double digits consistently. So,
well, that's good. That's good. We need to add. We need better advertising, is what we need.
Yeah, or who knows? Maybe better hosts.
Yeah. Well, with a name like what we've got, we should be able to do pretty damn well.
Yeah. Well, I actually have some ideas for some scripted, edited videos that I've been meaning to put together. One is about I want to talk about how my life has improved since I've quit Facebook. And I want to talk about what a difference it's made in my life, and I think it's pretty significant actually, and it's something that I want to talk about, and I think a lot of people could possibly get some value out of. And I also want to talk about just how much pop culture and everything that I used to love has been destroyed by left-wing politics. Everything from Star Trek to Star Wars, comic books, novels, everything is all, you know, even football, which I'm not a sports fan, but it's ruining everything. It's destroying
horrible
that everyone ever loved ever. And and yeah, that's something I could talk about for hours, but I mean, those are some kind of ideas of some videos I'm looking to put together in the future.
That's good because, you know, as you know, I have not been on Facebook in quite some time, several months, and that has been beneficial to me as well. I've been on some other media, but other media doesn't have the toxicity of Facebook.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and I have so much to say about that, but let's not get too far off track. I was just looking up some of the information on the Texas shooting, and before we went live, you were telling me something to the effect that the shooter that killed 26 people in Sutherland Springs, Texas today was somewhat of an SJW, right?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I got the information via Gab, and they linked, here it is, to yournewswire.com. Let me see if I can type the URL in for you in a chat box so you can pull it up. Let's see.
If you want to paste it over in BSOS, I have another window open too in that.
I'll put it in BSOS then.
Okay.
It'll take me a minute here.
Sure. Fair. But yeah, a lot of talk about how white people are the problem. More people are killed by white males than Muslims is the big talking point that the left is pushing now about this. And I think once more information comes out about this guy, they're going to be eating their shit on this one.
Well, yeah. This is a guy who was dishonorably discharged from the Air Force.
Oh.
And therefore he could not legally own a gun. Because once you've been dishonorably discharged,
right? Yeah,
you're never allowed to own a gun for the rest of your life.
Yep.
He was married to a non-white woman.
Oh.
So he's probably not a white nationalist.
I would. Yeah, it does not seem that way.
All right, no. And he had previously taught Sunday school, but I guess his faith was shaken by a divorce and he became an atheist.
Oh.
Just after he, within an hour of the event, I guess somebody informed Facebook of who he was long before the public was informed, and his profile on Facebook was sanitized of nothing but his regular profile picture plus him with a gun.
Dude, what kind of bullshit is this? Is Chrome censoring this site? It's marking it as unsafe. That is so funny.
I don't know. I'm able to surf it on my phone.
Is this a right-wingish kind of site? That's so funny.
I don't think so. Oh yeah, let's see. Your Newswire.
And I wouldn't even be using Chrome, except I need it to run the Hangouts. So that's the only thing I ever use Chrome for. I usually at least use Firefox. I used Brave for a while, but it's so slow, it was pissing me off.
Yeah, if you just go to yournewswire.com, it's on the front page of it. You'll find it there.
Yep, I see it. We're on it now. Okay, so Texas church shooter was Antifa member who vowed to start civil war. Well, okay. Considering it happened the day after Antifa's supposedly was going to have all these demonstrations that no one showed up for.
Well, exactly. And, you know, for whatever reason, you know, I'm fairly familiar with the right wing, and I've been involved in far right politics long before there was an alt-right. And I can tell you that most people who are what I would call far right wingers tend not to be very religious in the first place, but Antifa seems to have settled that conservative Christian churches need to be targets. And
well, it certainly seems that way. Look at this pasty-faced fucking piece of shit. Look at it. Like, you just want to
low testosterone there, buddy.
Absolutely. Like, oh my god, I love video games, but dude, you got to get out and get some sun. Maybe hit the treadmill for 10 minutes or 20 minutes a day. You know, like you probably wouldn't feel the need to kill people.
I mean, the guy is obviously a stereotypical loser. You know, and there exists now a large number of kind of anti-white things going on, whether it be like the prominent feminist in Sweden who proposed that all white males be sterilized at birth as a solution for racism, because obviously only white males are responsible for it. And you know, or you could just see in the whole Twitter sphere, there's tons of this. I wish white people would just die and all this other stuff. And a lot of the people putting this out are white people, or at least they look white.
Yeah.
And what has happened is this is communist. There's two aspects of communist theory that impact this. The first is that Marxist theory says that race is a social construct that is created by the capitalist system. And therefore, it has no reality. And if you get rid of this unreality, it will help you get rid of capitalism so you can adopt this utopia. And so that's the one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is when the class warfare thing didn't really work to create the dictatorship of the proletariat that was desired in the 60s, they decided to switch over. It's interesting, my 1957 unabridged dictionary, I can go grab it and drag it in here and show you. It does not even have the word racism or racist in it. Those words don't exist in 1957. In the 1960s, they started pushing these words because what they decided to do is instead of doing it on the basis of class, to do it on the basis of race, with white people being in the position of the bourgeois, they need to be killed and destroyed and overthrown, and, you know, brown people in the position of the proletariat. Yeah. And so they've taken the whole communist thing. If you look at all of the crap that they say and replace the word white person or whatever with bourgeois, you'll see it's straight Marxism. That's what it is. And well,
so that's the essence of identitarianism in a nutshell, isn't it? You know, that's the whole point of it. And the alt-right is just as much as part of the problem as a response. I got into an argument with my mom about this very thing yesterday because she was saying, oh, you know, the alt-right or the racists are the reason you're seeing all the anti-white stuff. And I was like, no, it's completely the opposite. It's the reverse.
Yeah. Those guys create I mean, the thing is, if I attack you, I don't know, you're into arts, right? If I say, you know what, because you're into film, you're a horrible human being, right? And the next time, and you go into a class at school to learn English and they say, you know, because you're into film, we're not going to let you speak here. And soon you're going to have an identity that you never had before.
Yes.
It's like, damn, I am a guy who's into film. And because I'm into film, I have to unite with my other people who are into film. You can do it with any group. And what has happened is systematically over time, there has been a tremendous amount of discrimination and belittlement and so forth of people who are white on the basis of the fact they are white.
No, the classic divide and conquer. And
as a result, they decide, hey, I have to defend myself as someone who is white.
Yep. And the only way you can find other people that are sympathetic to your situation are by those very divisions that caused you all to be discriminated against in the first place, thereby creating more identitarian issues,
Right.
which only added further fuel the problem. Because what we need to do is get away from identitarianism entirely, you know, and start getting back to looking at people as individuals, not as white male or cisgender or whatever the fuck term of the week you want to use. And that's the real insidiousness of this whole movement, right? Like, it's created, the left and right really aren't all that different in terms of their politics anymore. It's just in terms of who they don't like and who they do like. That's the only difference. Ultimately, their policies are exactly the same. It's just a matter of who's the gun pointed at. That's the only difference.
Well, yeah, especially when you talk Republicans and Democrats. I mean, the evidence is right in front of you in that you think about the hard left issues and you think about the hard right issues within the sphere of Republicans and Democrats, you know, which are fairly mainstream. If you were to talk to a Republican, he'd say, I want to see social welfare programs significantly pared back. I want to see, yeah, he'd say that, right?
Right.
We have twice in my lifetime had a 5-4 majority on the Supreme Court that were Republican, a president who was Republican, a Republican House and a Republican Senate all at once, and zero progress was made.
Yes.
On that.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, almost anything that is right wing falls under that category. The same thing with the left. Okay, you'll get some minor things that are passed with both left and right, like the medication benefit that was passed under Bush or something. But you're not going to have a significant leftist thing going on. Like, you know what the leftists would really like to do, the far left? They'd like to find the 0.1%, machine gun them all into pits, and take their shit. And yet, when you have had, for most of my life, you've had, you know, everything has been in Democrat control, that has not happened. Because, of course, it's those wealthy who fund the Democrat campaigns.
Right. Right.
Hold on. I have a timer going off to turn off a piece of equipment. I'll be right back.
All right. Yeah, you got some science going on over there.
Damn straight. Got some real science.
All right. Well, let's look at this article while you're gone. Then we'll take a look at Devin Kelly here, who's the new famous killer. Apparently, killed 27 people. 27 now. The shoot. I thought it was 26. Was one of 2 shooters in the church. There was a second shooter, or what is that? Am I reading that correctly? According to eyewitnesses. So, All right. So there's a snapshot of a fucking chat here. Apparently someone's saying that there were 2 guys with an Antifa flag. How credible is this? I'm curious. Jesus, what race? Of course, we have to ask what race the shooter is, right? Like, that's just the whole direction our country's gone now. Like, it's the number one thing. We don't know how to think about it until we know the shooter's race, because for some reason that matters. You know, and I get it to an extent, because you know it's going to be politicized to some extent. You need to brace yourself for that. But I just the most unimportant aspect of any violent killer is their skin color. Yet it's the first thing we ask about. We really need to find motivations, find out why these people are doing this shit, and figure out how we can address these issues on a societal level in case anyone else feels the same way. These nut jobs get their ideas from somewhere. It's coming from somewhere, and it's not their skin color. So what? Okay. So apparently, I find the victory lap taken by all the black mask types to be detrimental to the anti-fascist cause. Oh, you think so? If you're just following a black flag and can't handle a little criticism or self-introspection, you're not helping. Go after the heart of the far-right conservative churches. Anarchy, baby. Let's go get Whitey. Okay. I just wonder how legit all of this is, or is this just some fucking edgelord trolling? Because it looks pretty convenient to me. to fit a certain narrative. And I don't want to be like tinfoil hat or whatever, but just trying to apply a layer of skepticism here. Yeah, okay, thoughts and prayers, blah, blah, blah. Thanks, Greg Abbott. That's really useful. Huh. Yeah, not a whole lot else. But I just by looking at this kid, I can tell he's not someone who takes good care of himself and gets out a whole lot. He's probably not very successful with the ladies. Probably has some frustrations in many aspects of his life. So I would tend to believe that he would be an SJW, because that does fit the profile of the type of person, of the type of man, for lack of a better word, that would join a left-wing cause. But that may just be my own confirmation bias. We don't know for sure. This is just one source. And I may just be politicizing it myself. And I don't know. We'll see as more time comes out. It certainly is interesting to talk about, though. No real news on what his motivations were beyond the Antifa allegation and the supposed behind the scenes chats of them saying we should target white churches. Let's see. You know, let's go.
Another interesting factoid that I picked up. I'm not sure, again, on the validity, but it seems as though he was engaged by some armed citizens that were neighbors of the church.
That's right. Yeah, he was supposedly stopped by a good guy with a gun, right?
Exactly. He was stopped by a good guy with a gun, which, of course, is going to do every time this kind of thing happens. You know, the immediate inclination of the leftists, of course, is to disarm the citizens so that the citizens are defenseless against people who don't follow gun laws.
Oh, yeah. I was checking out all the live streams, and CBS and CNN, all they were talking about is, oh, we need to do something about guns.
Well, meanwhile, back at the ranch, this guy, his gun was illegal. He was dishonorably discharged from the Air Force, so he could not legally buy a gun. He might have lied on the form. I don't know if a dishonorable discharge shows up in the background check when you buy a gun or if it's just criminal stuff, but it might be that needs to be updated so that it does contain that. But, you know, they always come back with, let's disarm everybody, and that's going to throw a serious wrench into the gears, because it seems as though he was engaged by an armed citizen who did shoot him, and a couple of blocks later he crashed his car due to that wound.
Yep.
And as a result, you know, he was prevented from killing more people than he did.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and you know why he targeted a church, right? Because he knows no one in there is going to have a gun. You know,
same as a school, schools, churches, nobody brings guns. Now I go to church and I bring a gun because I'm aware of this penchant. You know, it's just common sense to me.
Right.
Yeah, because I know that sort of entity is a target of certain other types of entities who think that a little church in the middle of nowhere is somehow preventing the big communist takeover.
Well, given the circumstances, I can't say you're wrong for thinking that. You know, it definitely looks more and more sensible day by day. I mean, you know, you got guys shooting up churches, and you got people running over bikers in Manhattan, running them over with a rented Home Depot truck.
That was a truck of peace.
Yeah. You can always feel the peace from the warm Muslim community. I remember the very first media response was, "Oh God, how are Muslims' feelings going to be hurt now that this has happened?" And this guy was a Muslim extremist that murdered people. And it's like, God, no one gives a fuck about the feelings of Muslims, and the fact that you even bring it up makes us care even less. To the opposite direction. Like, we don't care. Like Muslims break for backlash. Oh, neat. You know, like what? Excuse me. How many Trump supporters have murdered Muslims historically?
Like zero.
Yeah. How? Like, what kind of fear are you actually talking about here? Are there people rallying outside the homes of peaceful, hardworking Muslim families and burning crosses on their lawns and shit? It's not happening. It's not. It's completely fake threat.
Nope. It's practically non-existent. And any backlash would take the form of basically trying to restrict immigration.
Right.
And that's a perfectly reasonable response. I forget where I read it, but I'm sure it's findable. One of the FBI officials that was under the Obama administration in the wake of the truck attack said that the price of diversity was these sorts of attacks, that we had to accept them because the value we gained from diversity was worth the attacks.
Oh, beautiful.
And this is one of the things that you look at that, and that's going to fuel a specifically white identitarian sort of response.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's its intent, but you do have to wonder. I mean, think about it this way. Without regard to race, the global IQ is 86. That is the IQ globally.
Okay.
The United States is heading into a period of greater and greater and greater automation. Most people, when they work a job now, most people with IQs of 85 are effectively unemployable now, right?
Yeah.
When you have a diversity lottery program where you admit people like that guy with the truck of peace, basically on the basis, the only criteria he has to meet is to not be white. Okay, which again fuels white identity politics, but leave that aside. The statistical likelihood that that guy is going to be contributing anything to be a net positive to our country, to our economy, etc., is practically zero. He's practically guaranteed that he's going to be someone who is on some form of public assistance, like the Tsarnaev brothers, who were brought here. They, as you know, did the Boston Marathon bombing, and they were on public assistance. Their entire family was here. They had done the whole chain migration thing. The whole fucking family was on public assistance, right?
Yeah.
And so when you take a look at what we gain from that sort of diversity, you have to look at it as a net negative. We are approaching a point where the majority of the adult people in America do not work. Those who do work, if you look at the reality of it, most people really only need to work to get everything they need to do at their jobs done 6 to 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
The rest of that time is spent doing make work, shit to make you look busy, shit to make you look like you're, to meet this specification or fill out that form or other bullshit, because we're kind of stuck in this employeeism mentality, and people get an identity from their job and shit like that. But the point is, we are reaching a point where in order to have a job at all, you need to be smarter and smarter. If we're going to be admitting people into the country, we don't need to be admitting them just because they happen to not be white, or just because they happen to cross a border illegally, or just because they happened to cross that border illegally while pregnant and drop a kid and turn it into an anchor baby, when the average IQ of these people is too low to be effectively employed in this country anymore.
Right. Well, and that's a fantastic point, and they're really, all it's really serving to do is create more of a divide between people.
Of course, because it's creating more people who are takers for the very small number of people who are givers.
Right.
And when you look at the taxes, now, as you know, the majority of babies born last year in America were not white. And when you look at whites demographically, they're still around 65% of the population, but they pay 80% of the taxes. And when you start admitting hordes and hordes of people who are on welfare, who are taking from taxes, those people who pay the taxes are going to start becoming resentful, especially if they can't afford to have their own kids.
Yeah.
If I can't afford to have my own kids so that I can subsidize somebody else who is on welfare to have their kids, gee.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, but for some reason, people actually buy this stuff and believe it and think they're somehow helping the less fortunate by doing that, when ultimately, the best thing anyone can ever do is just do some hard work. It's the most gratifying thing you'll ever do. Now the thing is what kind of hard work? You know, like you don't want to be doing hard work for, you know, like I don't know, like just I don't know, something that doesn't matter. You don't see the results of. I'm talking about something that you invest yourself into, where you can see the results of your labor at the end of the day, where you feel some satisfaction and pride, and that encourages you to want to learn more and to do more. You know, there's hard work and there's hard work. You know, you can be slinging fries all day at a fast food joint. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not satisfying for your brain. I'm talking about, you know, build something or learn something or do an experiment or plant some veggies or something, go to the gym, anything that pushes you to the limit that you can see the results of for yourself. At the end of the day, that's the best favor you can ever do, because it starts bleeding into other aspects of your life. It gives you more confidence. It's all kinds of greatness. It's just getting started, and we've lost that as a society. We don't push people to get started anymore. We make excuses for them to not ever start. We tell them they're victims or whatever. Like whatever it takes to keep them on the sofa eating cookies.
Yeah, that reminds me of a study I saw. Somebody texted me a link to this study, and it was a study that said basically, especially if you're white, don't exercise, because if you do, you'll die from a heart attack. And of course, what this study was garbage. What it was a meta-analysis that linked in, that threw together all sorts of different kinds of exercise, especially long distance running, which everybody knows will do this. But most guys who are working out and so forth, they're not doing long distance running. They're pumping iron, which doesn't have that effect. But it was yet another piece of information out there that, unless a person really dug into the study and saw what was going on and just took the headlines at their word, would think, oh, I'm doing the right thing sitting here, you know, eating myself silly, swilling Mountain Dew and playing video games. Stupid.
No problem. Hey, sorry, I had to go feed the cat real quick. I'm back now.
Ah, very good. So yeah, they put out a lot of stuff to try to discourage people even from working out and stuff. And when you pair that up and look at the average American man, you know, the average American man works a sedentary job.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get anywhere near the exercise he needs. His testosterone levels are in the toilet. Did you see what the article about the male BuzzFeed editors?
No, I should look that up.
Oh my gosh. Just do a search on Google for BuzzFeed testosterone.
Okay. I can't wait to see this.
All of their male editors got their testosterone levels tested. Every one of them but one.
Why would they do that? That sounds like the ultimate, like, worst thing that they could possibly do. Why would they willingly do that? That's hilarious.
Well, what happened is they wound up, yeah, and if you look at these guys and it's like, oh yeah. Now, basically, anything under 345 is a candidate for testosterone replacement therapy, okay? These are young. Now, look at the average, what it should be.
Oh, Ned.
17.
Poor beta.
Look at these guys.
Oh, my God. Ned.
And these are guys in their fucking 20s.
Soy boys. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
I mean, you look at these guys and you say, these are barely men, right?
You know, it's no wonder feminists hate men if these are the guys that they hang out with.
No shit. But the thing is, all you have to do to fix is not layer yourself down with gobs of sugar and, you know, go pump some fucking iron, right? And stop whacking off all the time.
That's toxic masculinity, bro.
I know. Well, I'm toxically masculine. It's you know?
There's something to be said for that. Oh my God! I can't believe they willingly did this. How unself-aware are they? They had to have known this wouldn't make them look good. However it turned out, right? Like, what was their point?
If they had high testosterone, then everybody would have called them toxically masculine. If they have low testosterone, I guess that makes them fit in well with their clique at work. But you know, but this kind of now the thing is, and this is another thing, people who come down more towards the right side of the political spectrum tend to be people who are physically strong and are, I guess you would say, more capable than average.
Yep.
Okay, a guy who is physically weak tends to be on the left side of the political spectrum.
Well, they lean toward collectivism, but yes, you're absolutely right.
And that being the case, you know, when you take a look at what the alt-right preaches, for example, a lot of these guys, they have their own podcast related to pumping iron. They have something I think called the Lift Waff that has like a Twitter thing where the guys post their daily workouts. Instead of Luftwaffe, they have the Liftwaffe.
Liftwaffe.
You know? And because they understand that if you're going to have your best shot at bagging the best chicks, you can't be somebody whose testosterone level in your 20s is so fucking low that it could be mistaken for a woman's.
Yep. I have a meme that I basically said for years, and it's basically feminists give the best blowjobs, and there's many levels to why that's funny, you know, because it kind of speaks to no matter what you know, people are basically slaves to their biology when it comes to what we like to fuck, you know, like we get turned on by what we get turned on, and what we intellectually think it can be an entirely different story sometimes. And in all these feminists, you know, you get them with the right guy that turns them on, and you know, and then who's traditionally masculine, who is, you know, somewhat, you know, in control but gentle but strong, and has all those qualities. Like, it makes them wet as fuck, and all their feminist ideals go out the window, and they just want to gobble that dick down, and that's all they care about, and they become the most submissive, you know, whatever, you know. Yeah, and that's the nature of the beast, and the things that, you know, guys like Ned are never going to know that. They're never going to experience that, because they don't have, first of all, probably any male role models in their life to let them know this. They're probably raised by single mothers or some shit, I would imagine. But you know, this is universal, and it's just so funny. Like, you just know these low testosterone guys. I think Eugene has the best chance of any of them.
Yeah, but man, that's hard. You know, I read a couple of articles about from women who said, even though I'm a feminist and stuff like that, I can't help myself. I keep fucking these MAGA guys, and I can't understand why. And the reason why is the MAGA guys are men, and chicks are programmed, unless they're lesbian, to dig men.
Well, and even lesbians like tough butch women that practically look like men anyway, so you know, like there's still something to be said even there. But
those butch women probably have higher testosterone than the BuzzFeed.
You know, it's probably true. That would more testosterone than the BuzzFeed editors, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So have you heard about you know, everyone in Hollywood is coming out with their sexual abuse claims. We've been talking a lot about it on my other series, but Kevin Spacey's been all over the news. Have you seen this drama?
Yeah, I've seen some parts of it. I guess he decided it's okay that he was grooming little boys because he's gay, right?
Yeah, basically.
That's
he was accused of attempted rape on Twitter, and his reply was like, "Hey, I'm gay. It's what we do." Not sit well.
Well, you know, and this is, there's probably no right way to say this, but there is kind of a cultural situation. There's a couple of cultural situations going on in the gay community. One of them is your average number of sex partners, if you're gay, is astronomical. Now, there are gay men who are exceptions, who are monogamous throughout their life with another gay man or something like that. But by and large, they have high numbers of sex partners. But the other big one is that almost all of them are groomed. That is to say, when they have their first homosexual experience while they are a young teenager with an adult man.
Yep, that's absolutely right. I think Corey Feldman has something to say about that. He's actually saying he's going to name names now. Oh shit! Fucking
well, I hope he doesn't really require being paid off $10 million to make a movie in order to name names. I mean, you know, that's pretty.
Yeah, that annoys me a little bit. I think he's abandoning that, though. I think he's just going forward with like a media tour, as far as I'm aware now. I think he's giving up the idea of raising money for a documentary, which Yeah, I think is the right call, because I think trying to profit out this is what it looked like, and it
that
kind of
kills his credibility.
Yeah. Yeah, but man, all these people are coming forward about Kevin Spacey now. Apparently, he's been a naughty man.
Well, this is fairly common, and yeah, we've seen a lot of this come out. I mean, it's interesting if you think about it. The big thing that Donald Trump was accused of was basically saying, "Hey, if you're rich and you're famous, chicks don't tell you no."
Right.
Okay, they just don't tell you no because they want you, right? Well, he's the ultimate alpha male, so of course, yeah. Okay, well, that was his big thing. But when you look at the list of these people who is doing this, like the NPR newsroom editor, I mean, you don't get any more left wing than fucking NPR, man.
Dude, seriously, yeah, all these lefties are fucking, like it's just a cavalcade of all these fucking virtue signaling feminist scumbags that are now turning out to be the worst types of sexual predators and rapists, and it's quite interesting.
Oh, hold on just a minute. I'll be back. I've got another timer going off.
Okay, I think Harmony wants to join, so I'm going to try and get her in.
Cool.
Harmony, if you're out there, I'm sending you an invite. Interesting that a Star Trek Discovery actor, of all things, was the one to blow this open. Just because I hate Star Trek Discovery. Show is bullshit. The Orville is awesome. Anyone out there, you need to go check out The Orville. It's an amazing show. Not the biggest Seth MacFarlane fan, to be honest, but he's really winning me over lately. And apparently, a lot of his jokes in Family Guy are basically encoded exposing of a lot of the shit we're seeing. So that's kind of cool. He's kind of getting my respect, and I just thought he was a fucking worthless piece of shit for the longest time, but he's kind of winning me over now. So it's nice to be proven wrong sometimes, you know, especially in the positive. If you think someone's a dirtbag and then they turn out to be cool, that's nice. That's a nice surprise. It doesn't happen enough. Should happen more. Usually it's the reverse. Usually you think someone's great and they end up being a dirtbag, like Kevin Spacey. Taking the necessary time to seek evaluation and treatment. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice that, like, you can, you know, attempt to rape people, and when you're called out on it, you just go to some resort? How do I get that gig? Can I sexually assault some chicks? Like, I could get down with that. It's not my usual thing, but you know, if it means I get to go to a resort for 2 weeks or whatever, fuck, that's admission I could pay. Getting myself into trouble here. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting to see, like, not just Kevin Spacey, but all the other left-wingers. Yeah, Brutus mentioned the NPR guy. We've seen Anthony Signor, or whatever his name is, from Screen Junkies. He's been called out now. All these fucking virtue signaling assholes. I keep waiting for Steve Shives to have an allegation, but then I realize Steve Shives doesn't have a dick, so how could he possibly ever sexually assault anyone? It would be impossible. If his wife even lets him out of the cage long enough to do anything besides make videos, I don't know. But I don't think we're going to see any sexual assault allegations against Steve Shives. Although I'd be highly entertained if they did come out. They would most assuredly be false, because, again, he just, I just don't. When I look at Steve Shives, for those of you who may not know who I'm talking about, let's pull this fucker up. He's my favorite punching bag. He's like a living meme at this point. Like, he's like this supposed atheist skeptic that is a total feminist, and he's completely just, oh my god, he's just so completely intellectually dishonest. It's hilarious. But he has this oh my god, he made a video about the Orville. What does he say about the Orville? Oh my God, I kind of want to watch this. All right, no one's here. Let's see. No, I'm not watching your ad, Steve Shives. I'm not contributing to your money. I want to see what he says about Orville, though.
Hey, folks.
He's going to piss me off, I'm pretty sure.
I love Star Trek a lot. I love Star Trek.
No, you don't. You don't love Star Trek, okay? We're 5 seconds in, and you've already pissed me off, Steve. I know for a fact you don't love Star Trek because you made the SJW's created Star Trek video, which couldn't be more beside the point. Like you could not have missed the point of Star Trek anymore. And I should make a response video to that one of these days, because it really was not just insulting to my intelligence, but insulting to every true Star Trek fan out there. And oh my God, you don't love Star Trek. You're a fucking fake fan. You're a fucking beta male fucking faggot. Okay, sorry, let's move on.
It's no secret. I have a series on this channel about Star Trek stuff. And naturally, because of that, a lot of you have been wondering what I think about the new show, The Orville, which is a very stark...
The Orville, not Orville.
Like
saying.
Show. So I thought I would spend a few minutes in a video just discussing my feelings, pro and con, about the Orville on this segment, which I can't call Trek Actually because it's not a Trek Actually video, and I can't even call it not actually Trek Actually because it's not really about Star Trek at all. So I think I'll just go with something like not actually Trek Actually.
Okay, Brutus, are you back?
I am.
Okay, so while you were gone, I just went off on a tangent about Steve Shives, and I just decided to look him up to see what bullshit he was up to. And he made a video about the Orville. Have you watched the Orville at all? Have you seen it? You probably not. You don't watch TV, right? Yeah.
Not that much. I'll go see a movie once in a while or watch UFC fights, but that's about it.
Well, let me tell you about it real quick. It's fucking great. It's like Star Trek: The Next Generation with modern day sensibilities and some stupid toilet humor thrown in every now and then. But it's not overwhelming, and it's not distracting from the show. Overall, it's quite good, and the characters, it's like a nice, optimistic, happy vision of the future, what Star Trek really should be about. And I don't know, and he tackles a lot of social issues. There's a lot of left-wing stuff, but there's a lot of like he did this episode, which I believe was a slam on Reddit, and it's basically they go to this planet which is pure democracy. So there's no facts unless the population has a consensus on it, right? So everything is upvoted or downvoted, and that's what decides everything. Criminal justice, what medicines they decide to use, everything. It's all based on what's popular. And I just saw that as kind of like a slap in the face. Yeah. That's what sci-fi should be doing, right? Is exploring this shit, and seeing like, well, what does a pure democracy look like? Here you go, and
that's the perfect place for sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. And that's just one example. They do all kinds of cool stuff like that. And I
read a lot of sci-fi books. I just don't watch many movies.
Sure, because most sci-fi sucks, and I'll be happy to admit that. But Orville is a breath of fresh air, and it's something we desperately need in this day and age. And I'm really, really glad it's here. So when I saw Steve Shives, this pasty ace fucking faggot cuck made a video on Orville, I was instantly curious on what he had to say about it. So I just wanted to see what his thoughts were on it real quick. We don't have to watch the whole video, but
I just wanted to see what he had to say. The best part of Star Trek: The Next Generation was Counselor Troy's boobs.
Oh my God, tell me about it. She's still hot too today. Have you seen her?
Really?
Dude, she's like almost 60 years old, and she's still super fuckable. Let me find her. Marina Sirtis. Dude, yeah, check her out.
Damn. She's hot.
Dude, she's fucking great. Like, it's like she's like 60 years old now and still fucking smoking, man. I know, right?
Yeah.
She looks better now than she did even back then, to be honest.
But yeah.
So yeah, good on her. She's doing good.
Yeah, definitely.
Steve. Okay, let's just see what he has to say real quick.
And if at all possible, I'm going to put even less effort into this than I would not actually a Trek Actually video. Let's find out if that is even something that can happen. The Orville reminds a lot of people of Star Trek, specifically of Star Trek: The Next Generation. In fact, the Orville is so reminiscent of TNG that for some folks it crosses the line from Bond homage to blatant ripoff.
Wait a minute. No, no one has said that. No one has said that. Absolutely no one has said that. No one has said that. Fuck it.
But
Who
even if
said
it
that,
did
Steve?
rip off, who cares?
Show your sources, but no one has said that. He's making that up because he's a Star Trek Discovery fan. Oh my god.
Okay.
All right.
Now, I'm not one of those people. I don't think it's fair to call the Orville a ripoff of TNG, but I do think it is obviously inspired by TNG, and it aspires to be that kind of a show, to be a show that has some Twilight Zone level challenging of the audience, stories that have a moral dilemma at their center, or that have our characters sort of testing their values or facing difficult moral choices, but also have a lot of space adventure and be a fun, lighthearted show. It's basically the classic Star Trek formula that was picked up and refined into something a little bit more sophisticated and a little bit more humane.
What was up with that edit? That was weird.
Yeah, but okay, that sounds like a reasonable thing there. I mean, the original Star Trek formula was fantastic.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Why mess with it? That's what the new Star Trek is completely missing the plot. I don't know if you've heard anything about the Star Trek Discovery show, but it's fucking.
I heard it was
garbage.
horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, garbage, utter garbage. Yeah. All right. Well, we don't need to give Steve Shives that much more attention here. I'm going to send an invite to Harmony. She wants to jump in, so let's get her in here.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, she's great. I don't know if you guys have met yet.
Well, we're friended, I think, on BSOC.
Boom. All right, invite sent. So she should be joining us shortly. Oh, God.
You know, a day without Facebook is like a day without the clap.
I had to make a new Facebook account just for my business page because there's so many people on Facebook. You kind of have to have one for your business, just for marketing. But I never get on it. Like I never ever get on it. And when I do, maybe once a week or whatever, I force myself to not look at the news feed or the trending news or anything. I don't look at any of that. I just check my messages and I get the fuck out. That's it.
Yeah.
I just don't want. I don't want to get pulled into it. You know what's interesting? You know what I've been doing a lot though. I've been getting on 4chan of all things. And
oh yeah,
it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of you know, for lack of a better word, shitlording there.
Absolutely.
You know, and
yeah, a good half of the posts are garbage, but the other half are pretty great.
oh yeah, I mean, you'll have somebody, you know, making memes like you have all these fat chicks in there like scooters, and it'll say Antifa now has a tank division. It's awesome.
Yes, I love that shit. Oh God. All right, so what else is in the news lately?
Well, when we were talking about the church shootings, I thought it was worth bringing up the forgotten one, which happened in Tennessee, which was a Black Lives Matter guy.
What?
Black Lives Matter, yeah, a follower of them, and there he is, Emmanuel Kadima. He was a Black Lives Matter sympathizer, and he went in and shot up an all-white church.
Oh shit!
And so the shooting in of a church in Texas was not the only one.
Let's check this out. It's the first I've heard of this.
You see, I mean, there's a media blackout on anything like that.
Yeah, apparently.
Thank you for being a standard there on the mentor. So next time I'm in New York, drinks on me, all the free water the restaurant will offer. Okay, very good. Totally not a problem, man. But you know what I'm going to ask you, and I hope you like.
Okay, they're talking about a shooting, and the guy's like making jokes about free water or some shit. Like, how inappropriate.
Yeah, and one of the problems that you run into is there's a lack of context because the public is not going to be aware that the immigrant, Black Lives Matter guy, I think he was from someplace in Africa, you know, goes in and shoots up a church specifically because it's full of white people, right?
Right.
And that does not make the news. And then what will happen is you'll have some alt-right people who will stage a protest of the fact it's not in the news. Okay? And and then what will happen is that will be a hate group, right? Of high violence and et cetera, completely neglecting to mention the fact that they, as the media, did not cover this other thing that happened.
So how many people died?
I don't think many. I think it was just a couple of people died, but 7 were injured.
We'll
the
see
one person who died.
Neil Cavuto tells us.
Yeah.
Doesn't get the same amount of coverage that a white shooting African American would get. Now, I don't think one is more reprehensible.
Okay, how does Neil Cavuto have a job, by the way? He's the worst. He just
I don't know.
He can't even speak.
Well,
like, I'm no great orator, but oh my God.
I attribute this to the bell curve. By that, I mean any society is only going to produce a certain number of people with an IQ over X. Like half of the people in America, because we have tried very hard to dumb America down and to bring in as many dumb people as we can. You know, the average IQ in America now is 95. It used to be 100. But half of all people are going to be below that median, okay? And the number of people who are going to be like geniuses is going to be like 1%, okay? Now, that 1%, a certain percentage of them are going to be scientists, a certain percentage of them are going to be lawyers, a certain percentage of them are going to be Indian chiefs and stuff like that. You're not going to have a lot of them wanting to be anchors, okay? Now, think about this. When we were kids, there were 3 big networks. There was ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, and they could afford to get the very best of the best, right? Walter Cronkite was amazing, or whoever, right?
Right.
They could afford to get the really top talent. Now you've got 300 channels on your television, right? Okay, you only have a certain percentage of people capable of being that talent. That is going to be a talking head on the TV. And remember, when we were kids, talking heads on TV were an hour a night. That was it. That was the end of your talking heads, okay? So between all the major networks, you had, 4 hours a day that had to be filled with people who were talking. And the rest of it was TV shows, movies that were being replayed, what have you. Now you have 300 channels. You have a substantial number of them require talking heads. And they aren't just talking for an hour a night or a half an hour, which turns out to be 22 and a half minutes without the advertising. Right. You instead have, 8-10 hours of original talking head content per day from a very limited pool. And as a result, you're basically having to have a bunch of dumbasses as talking heads.
Oh, and hey, look who's here. Harmony Nation in the house. Thank you for joining, madam. Oh, yeah. Get your headphones on.
Got to plug in her electric guitar.
That's right. It sounded like it, didn't it?
She can't hear, so she doesn't know I'm making jokes about her.
I know. We can say whatever we want, and she's helpless.
But I think that's the case with a lot of things where you've tried to expand what appears to be choice, but the overall quality seems to decline. They've increased quantity, but quality has declined. Yes. And a lot of that just has to do with the fact that you have a limited pool of people to pull from who can fulfill a task, and you're trying to divide it by this very high quantity.
Well, and then plug in the fact that these positions are very incestuous in nature, and you have to be an insider, and it's about who not anything else really, and so you even thin down the talent pool even more so when you limit it to a small elite group of insiders.
Well, and that's a lot of what happens, and that kind of brings me back to the whole Hollywood thing. A lot of Hollywood is incestuous as hell.
Oh yes,
it's who the hell you know and who you blow, right?
Right.
And it's been known forever. The casting couch thing, if you're a chick and you're going to make it in Hollywood, you've got to blow this one or sex that one or whatever.
Or anyone. You don't even have to be a woman. Like, whatever. Like, fucking young boy, too.
But it brings me kind of back to this thing of these guys in Hollywood, their operation is the exact opposite of alpha. I'm sure you know how this works. You've had to turn down chicks. I've had to turn down chicks, right? It's the nature
I've never had to
of
turn down shit.
there you go. But what happens when you're
Now that I think about it, yes, I have.
but when you're one of these dudes, these slimy guys in Hollywood, you or the president of the newsroom at NPR, you don't have to turn down chicks. Instead, you have to use a position of power in order to coerce chicks, right?
Yeah,
And
that's what gets
strangely
me.
enough, this is what plays into the feminist narrative of sexual harassment. It's this whole power thing, and that's because these women are experiencing places like Hollywood.
Yep, they think the rest of us are like that.
Exactly. But
Yep.
the rest of the guys in America are respectful human beings. You're a mechanic. You go see a mechanic. He's a respectful human being. He doesn't use a position of power to get laid.
Yeah, you've totally touched on something that I think is really important. That I think is largely being missed by people. But I think it does explain why fucking Hollywood feminists hate men so much. Because yeah, why would hate men too if Harvey Weinstein was the type of guy that I was expected to deal with on a daily basis just to keep my job?
Yeah.
Like, fuck. No wonder. And if you're in an insular bubble in the elitist Hollywood lifestyle, then that's the only type of man you're ever going to know. So you're going to think all guys are like that. Why wouldn't you? Makes perfect sense now.
Or just imagine how creepy those BuzzFeed guys are with their testosterone levels about the same as a chick. One of those guys is hitting on you. Ugh.
I don't even know what those guys look like, and I get creeped out just seeing their testosterone level. I can just imagine in my head what they look like. And
Speak up, Harmony.
Just give me a minute to get that visual out of my head. So since you guys are talking about feminism, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and chime in. To be honest, from a female perspective, the women that go to Hollywood, just like any other career. So when we're seeking a career, we've already denied or put off looking for a man, having a family. So I'm not defending the pedophiles. I'm not defending the men who, the predatory men, the men who prey on them. But these women go there, a lot of them go there knowing what they're going to have to do and willing to do it. And
They're already
most of them are
hookers. They're just negotiating the price.
Right. So they are single. They're not looking to settle down. A lot of them are already bitter. They're already bitter. A lot of times when a woman seeks a career, it's because she's given up, because she's been hurt by men. That's what you're seeing with feminists. It isn't always women who've never been with a man. A lot of times they become so angry and bitter, and that's just a good fit for them because they're so they tried, and failed at relationships for whatever reason. And maybe all they dated was assholes, or they turned out to be assholes. So it's easy to believe all men are shit, scum.
Yep, that's fair. We see the opposite in the MGTOW community quite a bit.
Well, yeah, you see a lot of men. What happens is they get hurt by women, or they get abused or taken advantage of by women in some way, and they just say, "Fuck it! Women are horrible. I don't want to deal with women anymore. I don't need this in my life."
Yeah, but I think the difference is that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that sadly, men don't have quite the platform. They're not given quite the sympathy. They're not given that whole feminist group. So a lot of it is, again, you're trying a relationship, and for whatever reason, you're getting discouraged as it is, and they're like auditions, and you're down. But you have got you've got the mainstream, you got everybody against you finding a relationship. So it's really easy to go, hey, they're supporting me not being in a relationship. Who needs this mess? So that happens on both sides, but it's even worse with women. In that
because women are supporting that.
Well, not according to Michelle Obama. You heard what she said this last week, right? Like she was talking about
runs because I want to see Trump totally go after her. Fuck her and her whole minority. I'm a woman. That's how the Democrats think. That's how stupid you are. We all are. That she's a female minority. That's it. That's all that's necessary. And she'll cry sexism. Well, Hillary may not have been black, but she cried sexism. Didn't work. And
it's why they keep losing, and it's why they're going to continue to keep losing because they're completely tone deaf to their own failures. They're so arrogant.
Fine with me.
I did some analysis about a week and a half ago that you might find interesting. The difference in outcomes for children in terms of their education, their income in life, and so forth. The big differential, the big factor that makes a difference is whether or not their biological father was in their home growing up.
It is.
Now, back in the 1960s, Patrick Moynihan did a report called "A Nation at Risk" and so forth that detailed how that it was a real serious problem. He felt that 28% of black families were being raised without a father in the home. And he felt that that had to be addressed in order to bring the performance of black people into parity with the performance of white people.
Okay.
And now, of course, it's 70% of black kids are being brought into the world without a biological father in the home. And it's right around 28% of white kids who are being brought into the world without a father in the home.
And then we wonder why black crime statistics are so high among males.
Well, and this is the thing. You can take a look at the difference in crime rates, the difference in educational attainment between blacks and whites, and it is completely explainable by the difference in percentage of father in the home. And the thing is, we know it's not innate in the black community, and we know it's not because of white privilege or something like that, because at one time, the fatherlessness rate of black people was the same as it is currently for white people. And one of the things that makes a huge difference is that women were included as an affirmative action category. And as a result, a white woman is 7 times as likely as a black man to benefit from affirmative action. And if you go to any government office, it's full of black women because they're a twofer under affirmative action. Yep. So it has worked out to systematically exclude black men from the workforce, from government employment, from education, to the advantage of white women and black women. And as a result, you now have created a situation where black men cannot be fathers, or they can't be breadwinners for their home. They can't be the patriarch of their home. And they are replaced by a government job or by a government check, and creates this very problem that is being blamed on white privilege is actually caused by feminism.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to share an anecdote about when I was in my 20s and I first moved to Seattle and I was looking for work. I was basically applying for everywhere, you know, like whatever. I was just a kid, just trying to work my way through college, whatever. So I was gonna, you know, wait tables or do manual labor, whatever would pay the bills. And I was hired to work for this government cleanup project, and basically it was this big cattle call. You go and there's like all these washed up 40 to 65-year-old guys, you know, probably out of prison or whatever, hard up for work, you know, like not living the life, let's just say. And they're applying for this trash pickup government job. And the administrators of this job were all 400-pound lesbians. Like they were all like short-haired, you know, feminist glasses, really well-dressed, lots of, you know, big diamond necklaces and rings and all this shit. Like clearly they made good money at their job. And they were lording over and basically, you know, like all these fucking guys who are just like desperate for this $11 an hour picking up trash garbage job. Like they were, you know, some kind of aristocracy. Like there was just an attitude about them, like, you know, like you fucking peasants, you know, blah, blah, blah. And those are exactly the type of women that will tell you all day that they're the ones that are oppressed and that men have the privilege. When the reality is, I think my anecdote is probably far more common than the reverse would be in any situation. And I always remember, this is before I was even red pilled. This is when I was very young and I wasn't even aware of this stuff really. But I always remembered that experience and just the attitude that I felt from these administrators that were clearly loving the fact that they had all these fucking desperate guys desperate for work, and they were gonna, you know, wade through trash for shit money, and they were just gonna be the managers of, and they just loved the hell out of it. And it always stuck in my head.
It's worse than that, actually. They don't just love it. They demand it. They expect it. It's nothing to them, so they don't do a good job, and they don't have to. I went into a place last night. I went into Denny's because after we were done here, it was kind of late, and I was hungry, so I had to go to the store and stuff. So it was about all that was open, but, you know, sit down. I love their coffee. I walk in, and I noticed you know, a white male, came up, gave me a menu, said, I'll be right with you. And it took him a really long time. And I noticed there were a lot of customers here, and like, where's the waitress? I expected maybe or something.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
he was it. He was it. And he came by when he finally came by, and there were people piling up the door and everything. And when he finally came by to talk to me, he said, I'm sorry, I just picked up a huge table in the back there. And then he started to tell people I'm the only one here. But sure enough, after being there for a while, and immediately when I walked in, I already noticed the black chef in the back. That's all I thought that was there. But eventually, who turned up is a black woman who showed up at the register with her back to customers, standing around doing nothing, not even trying to help. That's what they do around here. Like the white folks, and that's if you get a shift at all. You walk into many a place here, and where I'm at, and everybody's black. Everybody is black. Waffle House is the worst about it. This is how bad it is. This was in 2013. I was at the Waffle House. I'm about the only white person in the whole place, not unusual. Black woman comes in. She's screaming and yelling that her food order wasn't right. She talked to the manager. She wanted free food, and she wanted her money back. She was trying to do that. And there was a huge staff there, all black, all black. Sure enough, if she didn't pull it out, though, it's because I'm black.
She's still trying to pull the race card.
And nobody even laughed or snickered or anything. It was just too like, you fucking kidding me, lady? I couldn't believe it. She pulled it out, man. Already we knew she was trying to, screaming at me. I have a hair salon, and I already talked to the manager, and you're not, you're manager, and you better give me my money back and make my food. And it was 7 p.m. and her food order was that day at 11 a.m.
Oh,
so it was just, you knew she was already trying to get something for nothing. We already knew that, and that's pretty common. But she pulled it out, man. I went,
Well, and this is one of the problems with the whole race thing. The way it's used is, you can use it as a hammer to get a free lunch, and if you meet certain specifics, and it's a real problem. People will give you what you want just to avoid you making a stink.
Yeah,
and that's the thing, is they'll go there. That's the difference. And to be honest, I'd say to fight back, I would recommend being just as asinine, being just as much the fool, throw a fit at one, do the same thing, show them what they look like. First of all, I swear, I need to be Laura Loomer and maybe get a camera and just start going around doing everything I see them doing. Not only to show them, but who's behind the counter is going to be black people as well as all around me. So not only to show them how stupid you look, but make them, first of all, let's, and they'll have to accommodate me just to, now you got to accommodate me. I went in at one point and I thought, because I thought that I don't want to be like them, but so I cried instead. Works. I just wanted a return. I just wanted my money back and stuff, and it was one of those things they don't normally return. And Walmart mostly returns anything, but I was just really like, but in my defense, I felt like crying because I had been treated so badly by all the black at this place. So I went in there going, they're just going to treat me badly some more. So I just, it wasn't really intentional. In the end, it was like, hey,
Well, you'd have a hard time imitating Laura Loomer. I don't know if you're familiar with what's come out about her of late.
Oh yeah,
She
Mr.
seems to be a
Medicare.
bit of a sexual predator, and
Yeah, she's fucking creepy as fuck. Holy shit! Like,
what did she do? I didn't hear. What did she do?
oh yeah, Mr. Medicare did a great video on her. Let's see if I can find that. Are you guys familiar with Mr. Medicare?
No.
He's the guy that she was
No,
chasing down.
Mr. Medicare is the hero that we need, not the hero we deserve.
Okay.
He reports on this shit that is just amazing. But yeah, he's got a.
Oh, there you go, Laura Loomer's Dirty Bloomers.
Yeah, here you go. You got to see this, Harmony. This is pretty great.
I'm not going to defend people I disagree with when they won't defend me and my tire. I don't know about you folks, but I will always defend the lady's tire from any nefarious ne'er-do-well that dares to threaten. Don't you ever talk to Laura or her tire ever again. Good old Laura Loomer. I didn't think it was possible. I did not think there was another summit she could climb to make a bigger ass out of herself on the internet. I was wrong. This incident with her and her tire, I ended up covering in a Rebel Media video I did about a month back, just briefly touching on it, as it was a smaller part of a larger story. But today we're talking about Lori. So allow me to fill in some of the details for you if you happen to miss.
All right, so there's the tire thing, but we should skip ahead to the sexual assault stuff because that's the really wrong.
She's wicked stalky. She's a real stalky type.
Oh.
I recommend this video. I recommend this channel entirely to everyone out there. Mr. Medicare is a fucking hero. He's a legend, and anyone who doesn't know his stuff needs to watch him right now because his entire channel is just a gold mine.
Yeah, but you can bet his stuff don't pop up on recommended and trending.
No, it's not.
That's why.
Very check him out. Now, this video is put up by a man named Gavin, who encountered Laura Loomer, and well, I'm going to let him relate his story. We're going to listen to what Gavin has to say and see if it matches up to the behavior that they're describing.
My name is Gavin Wax. We're going to talk about the serial predator Laura Loomer. I met with her and went to a professional meeting, and it slowly descended into this really weird, awkward, and bizarre date. She was trying to make it into a date, and I sort of realized this, and cut it short. A week thereafter, I was getting dozens and dozens of just texts, unsolicited calls, unsolicited. They were just getting more and more day. I started to ignore her, and I started to realize she's probably stalking me. She's adding. I learned that she's adding friends on Facebook of mine that I've never met her, and I was commenting photos, writing really weird things. I met with them, and started getting started getting calls randomly from restricted numbers. Answer, hang up, all the time.
So here's Gavin meeting Laura Loomer, and they're having a professional meeting because they have a business interest in the line. And already he's getting a weird vibe from her. He's getting a very bizarre feeling that this isn't just work related. She wants more from it. So he cuts it short. And then after cutting it short, he starts to get a shit ton of text messages and weird phone calls. And then finds out that she's stalking all these social media pages of people that know him, family members. But it goes on from there. It gets weirder and weirder.
Oh, yeah.
One day, I was at work, worked into the day, 6 o'clock, get home from my desk, Gavin. Name's Laura, and
He went to his work.
he said no. Get invited. What she's actually saying by this point is, no, I had to leave. The emergency exit and leave. I'm by the side street. He was saying.
So now after all the creepy phone calls and text messages and just weird behavior, trying to ignore and trying to get on with his fucking life, she's showing up at his place of work and trying to get in. He had to flee the building through a fucking side exit because, as he described it, Laura Loomer, this serial predator, was waiting out there. It's like a fucking gazelle and she's a lion on the savannah, looking to hunt fresh meat. That's Laura Loomer for you.
You can remember where I live. My address. This was right after she was work. That is, she would go to all these other Republican city and Republican events and that. She was just close friends of mine and her friends. Interrogate them and just demand to know where I was, who I was with, where I was going. She could tell them that way. Dates and ridiculous things I just never had. I literally met her at this point, like even encountered her like a few times.
How fucking creepy and ominous is that? You start sending people information.
So yeah, that's basically the long and short of that.
And he is not the only case.
Yeah, she makes a habit of this.
Yeah. If
Well,
you
I tell
happen
you,
to be a man that Laura Loomer finds attractive, you're in trouble.
Well, I left a comment on this video. I don't know if we can find it, but basically, I was like, he should have just fucked her and just been bad in bed. That would have turned her off.
No, because if it came to him having to call police, the first thing they would have said is, "Are you?"
Did you rape her? Yeah.
And then he would lose, protection in that sense. It would be like a girlfriend stalking you. They would, still try to do what they could, but that's what I've learned. Don't sleep with crazy. Don't sleep with crazy. You call police even when you need help, when they turn violent or whatever, and that's the first thing they ask you. I was able to say, no, I don't even know this person in the situation I had.
Seriously.
Yeah, and they kept asking me if I was He was my boyfriend. And what's worse is he's black. So they were just rolling their eyes like, oh, because he's black. But, well, yeah, I totally should be fucking him. I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
With the black man, he's apparently angry about that, and you are too. Are you kidding me? You think, again, I would say men, you know, white men, you do have it pretty bad. But with white women, we're supposed to sleep with the brown, black people, and when we don't. And
You're a
I mean,
racist. The only reason you won't fuck them is because you're racist. I know.
Exactly. I don't know about you, but to deal with what you all have to deal with, hey, at least it's not like, why aren't you fucking them?
Yeah.
That's like
at least we generally have the options. Although if it's a
babies with them as well, and the whole bit.
If there's a big age differential, though, and you're a teenage boy and it's a teacher, everybody thinks you got lucky if the teacher wants to screw you, though. And
that's
they don't understand the age difference and the fact that you actually are really being raped. Even though you might enjoy it at the time, you really are being raped.
You know what, though? The law says, most laws, I mean, I think, is if there's any sign of arousal. See, that's why, it's not just picking on men. I mean, it's that, too.
Well, the thing is, men can be physically aroused by a machine. They don't even need a female to be physically aroused.
The law says it's a sign of arousal. They need to change, is my point.
It does. I'll be right back, guys. I got to check something.
Okay, very good. Actually, I'm going to step away real quick, too. Let's just take a 5-minute break and come back real quick.
Okay.
All right, very good. 5-minute break. Let's show Mr. Menaker in the meantime.
Maybe you've heard of the butterfly effect. A butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the world. The other side of the world now is a hurricane. All the minor interactions that cause. I like to call this the butterball effect. Because good old fat fuck Harvey Weinstein has unleashed utter chaos on Tinseltown. At the rate things are progressing, we're going to need a GoFundMe a graveyard for the amount of skeletons that are hopping out of powerful people's closets. So much has come out over the last week to week and a half that it's really difficult to pick from. There's so much insane shit happening right now that when you take a moment and you step back from it and you really look at the scope of it, it leaves you awestruck. It's hard to fathom that it's really actually happening, but it is. When we last left off, Harvey was accused of sexual harassment by a multitude of women, but those allegations have continually grown from there to encompass an enormous amount of actresses in Hollywood. Hell, Uma Thurman is pissed off at Harvey Weinstein, so fucking mad at him that she has to collect herself before she makes a public statement about how awful he is. But the really striking thing from this particular article would be this excerpt, this little blurb. 90 women, fucking 90 women have been bothered by Harvey Weinstein, either sexually harassed or assaulted. And when I say assaulted, I mean criminally assaulted. The police in New York on Friday said that they were developing a strong criminal case against producer Harvey Weinstein after an actress's claims that he raped her 7 years ago. Speaking at a news conference at police headquarters in Lower Manhattan, officials in the police department said they were gathering evidence with an eye towards preparing a warrant to arrest Mr. Weinstein. So good old Butterball there, he's looking at some actual prison time, some rape allegations, not just harassment. Not just being creepy and saying, I want you to watch me while I shower, but actual rape charges. But if you've been paying attention this week, it doesn't just end with Harvey Weinstein. Multiple people are getting accused now of everything from sexual harassment to sexual assault. And some of the stories surrounding it are just unreal. Juliana Margulis says Steven Seagal and Harvey Weinstein tried to sexually harass her. When she was 23, Margulis said a female casting director sent her to Seagal's apartment at 10 p.m. to read a scene. The casting director pushed the actress's objections by offering to reimburse her cab fare and promising that she would be present as well. But when Margulis arrived later that night, she found herself alone with the action movie star. She set me up, Margulis said of the other woman who arranged the audition. The encounter with Seagal quickly turned threatening, the actress recalled. He made sure that I saw his gun, which I'd never seen a gun in real life, Margulis said. I got out of there unscathed. I don't know how I got out of that hotel room. I sort of squirmed my way out. She said Seagal tried to turn the audition into a sexual encounter with a tactic also allegedly practiced by Weinstein. It always starts with, I'm a healer. I want to massage you, she said. Luckily, in this case, we actually have video evidence of what transpired in that hotel room. And it is shocking.
Who are you?
I'm the cook.
But Weinstein and Seagal aren't the only ones being accused of things. Ex-Nickelodeon producer Chris Savino apologizes amid sexual harassment allegations. James Toback on new allegations by Rachel McAdams and Selma Blair. I have nothing to say about it. And by the way, Toback is accused, I believe right now it stands at 300 women. 300 women have had something to say about Toback. 6 women accused filmmaker Brett Ratner of sexual harassment or misconduct. Hey, Jeremy Piven, remember when you cornered me in your trailer on the Entourage set? Remember grabbing my boobies on the couch without asking? This one event with Harvey Weinstein has set into motion a cascade of allegations.
Okay, so I, as entertaining as this video is, I just saw a 4chan article that I'm not sure is a troll or not. I need to look this up real quick. Facebook wants you to upload your nudes.
That's gotta be fake.
Oh,
They
did you
want
see
to
how
create
they
hashes
trolled?
like apparently like
Did
law
you see
enforcement does to fight revenge porn. Like, what the fuck? This is
I love that they're doing that troll. The latest one, it's okay to be white.
oh yeah. Yeah, that's a fantastic story. I'm loving that. That's definitely a 4chan victory.
That's awesome. I mean, it's great because over here, I mean, by the way, Harmony, I grew up in the South, but I live in the North, and not far from me in Cambridge, Massachusetts, they put up a bunch of these, you know, it's okay to be white things. And it was reported, of course, as a hate crime. People called the police. They were literally shaking.
Yes,
and it's like, it's hilarious. I mean, and it shows them for what they are. That they really have
the whole thing's
decided that it's not okay to be white.
They knew that this was going to happen. They openly posted exactly and predicted perfectly what the reaction would be.
Well, even before I saw that, though, even again, that was that part of it was revealed on Infowars, which I loved. But even just the sign itself, I knew because I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area. That is total. Remember last night how I told you how you got to flip it around because I did the tweet. You weren't here, but I did a tweet out to Corey Feldman about. Oh, so because Corey Feldman wouldn't, because they were trying to get him to say something bad about Michael Jackson back in the day. And I said, so unless he's ready, willing to try to help them convict a black man, the police didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, Corey Feldman retweeted, he replied, as well as a ton of other people. You really have to put it in such a way, they're going to freak out. And immediately expose themselves with that. I'm telling you, I'm going to get my pajamas and go to the Walmart and throw a damn fit. I'll put like a wig on even and some crazy thing going on and throw a fit just to, show them this is what you look like. Laughing at me if you think I look stupid. I would agree. I say.
Well, I can't believe Facebook is actually doing this. What they're basically creating is a database of child porn. Like, they're asking young people, upload your nudes to us. Wink, wink. It's totally safe. We're doing it to find predators.
To prevent revenge porn.
Yeah. And oh my God, like, this has to be a troll. This can't be real. I can't believe they're that clueless that they would do this.
Or it's somebody
to the best. I mean, part of this is just, this has to be garbage because either that or people are really dumb. Fortunately or unfortunately, as the case may be, I've been around the block about 20 times, okay? And I don't think that there's any woman on this planet who has a picture of me nude. Okay?
Oh, well, then you're one of very few because the dick pics I have seen in my life, you're talking to somebody or texting them, next thing you know, whoa.
And I've never taken a picture of my dick because I know that if I send it to some chick, the next thing you know, if we break up or whatever, she's gonna post the motherfucker. So no.
Women too are just, especially millennials, they're quick to send the whole deal to you.
I've seen tons of pictures of girls. They just
if they'll send it to me and that's happened, I know they're sending it to you. To guys.
That's true. I've had tons of, and some of it's been crazy from girls who were, clearly I thought underage maybe, but they're just so anxious to have some guy to whatever that they think that sending a nude picture recommends them more highly. It's like, actually, all you've really told me is that you're easy.
So if anybody remembers or was around the day for Madonna and what she's dealing with right now, take a look. It's all about shock value. And the problem is we've had to up the ante so high. This is what it's come to. So even 10, 12, 14-year-olds will do it because they don't know what they're doing. I mean, they don't really know what they're doing, but they know that everybody else is doing it, or that they've got a top, or this is going to, whatever gets attention, especially now with social media, it's so quick to do that. You get that immediate feedback and you send out a new pic, a lot of attention. And if that's all you're seeking, the means to get there, Laura Loomer, for instance, that's what I would, I mean, I already pegged her as a definitely an attention seeker. I knew she was single.
Yeah, there's probably a good reason why.
Stay that way. Yeah, and gonna stay that way. But and maybe she did. I thought maybe she didn't care. Again, when women get career driven, a lot of times it's either that they've already become bitter or they've already made that choice. So, or they're already married, and that's rare. So I see women like that. I mean, I'm not saying that men are career driven, men are better. They're just.
There's a difference. A man who's career driven has a career in order to support a woman. Right. Or to get a woman.
And he's not going to get pregnant. He's not going to be the one to get pregnant and have to take the time off. So you made the conscious effort to forego having children, if nothing else, whether you're either seeking a, like I said, sometimes you have one because you know of the downtime for pregnancy. So
yeah, and that's one of the things where it's kind of a catch-22. The more highly educated a woman is, the less likely she is to ever have kids. There's a lot of things that can go into that, though. A lot of times women are not really made aware of the timeline of their fertility. They think that just because their mother was having a period at age 50, that she can have a kid at age 50, when likely, no, not really. Their fertility really starts to decline at around age 33. And so if you haven't had at least one kid by the time you're 33, you're not going to have any kids. Your odds of having them are very low, or if you do have them, the chances of Down syndrome go through the roof and all of these other problems.
I was actually really unhappy when I started to see women 40, 50 having kids, because one, they don't tell you that those women have probably have to go through in vitro and to get pregnant. And two, it's you're not, how long are you going to be around for the kid? It's so selfish is the thing.
It is selfish.
I mean, it's one thing for one, and maybe they just tried and they, the rare situations, but them to be proud of it and act as if this is the new normal, and how, as if, and they don't talk about what it took to get there. I get in the information of this is your window, but women are getting pregnant at 40 and they're acting like it's, I just finally decided to have a kid. Boom, I was pregnant.
Well, it's not true, though. These women had to go through very expensive procedures that are not covered by insurance and that the average woman will never be able to afford. If you're going to have kids, you want to have them before age 33.
And I said this last night, again, it's not what they're telling you. It's the little time. It's like when you stop and ask for directions back before we had GPS, or even GPS. And they leave out one turn. They say, go here and turn on this street. And they leave out that one street that you're supposed to go down to get to. And you be circling and looking for that's all they have to do. That misdirection of leaving out that vital one piece. Stop.
Stop. Yeah. Sorry. Oh my God.
But
Ugh.
but what can happen is if a girl wants to be able to be self-supporting in the event that her husband becomes unemployed, or her husband, pumps and dumps her, or something like that, she does have to pursue a fair amount of education. And the problem too is that our educational system is very much oriented towards teaching people all the wrong things, giving them all the wrong values. And so it's my daughter has explained to me, for example, that every class that she takes, with a few exceptions, and they're working on fixing those exceptions, every class she takes is basically, you're evil if you're white. If you are a white girl, the only way you can be a moral person is to have non-white babies. Or that you
earlier. I'm like evil if I'm having kids.
All of this kind of shit gets drilled into them. They turn every class, English class, it's not about Shakespeare anymore. It's about how evil you are if you were born white, or et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, and
yeah, what it is that, again, I have to go back to the attention seeking. With this is what I've noticed about minorities, and maybe from being exploited so long and stuff, but especially Black people. They have got to have attention. The problem is they get negative attention and then bitch and complain about it. You can't demand attention. Madonna is the same thing. You can't demand all this attention. Look at me, look at me. It's about me. They turn everything about me and not someone go now. And this is what we see. Well, wait, you weren't supposed to see that. That's you've got the majority, especially majority of Black women. That's what I'm seeing from.
I see it more among Black women than among Black men. Strangely enough,
I'm just
most
saying,
of the Black men I know aren't like that.
Even with the hair, take a look at the hair, even, and when the more radicalized a person is, you can tell by the hair, the extreme, the big, or this and that. But it's also they pay thousands for that. Somebody told me that if I wanted to sell my hair, it would be like I could get $800 for it easy. I'm like, are you kidding me? How much are these women paying? These women on welfare, and you see that they have, and it's all fake. I mean, it just is. That's a fact. And thousands. So they spend like tens of thousands a year on welfare to buy hair. And I wouldn't deny or begrudge anybody that.
Or government jobs.
And hours in this chair and all of that, and the time, and I wouldn't begrudge anybody anything like that. But it's just not it's not a right. It's a it's a luxury item.
It's a very low time preference choice. What you're saying basically is, I just want to look pretty today, and I don't give a shit about whether or not my kids are properly cared for in the future.
Exactly. That's it. That's the problem, is that we just, as taxpayers, that's fine if you want to look the way you are, but and some of the welfare check's going to go to places that we wish it didn't go. Okay, we can't tell people how to live their lives, but that much is taken away. Is literally, we know it's a fact. I'm a right-winger,
so I believe that women should be removed as an affirmative action category, and that welfare should be completely abolished at the federal level and left to the states.
I said that exactly to somebody the last time I was working, and I said we should get rid of affirmative action. Hey, and I'm saying as a woman, because it works for me too, and I'm saying get rid of it because it discriminates. You can legally, federally discriminate against people. In fact,
as long as they get rid of women in the category, I don't actually mind if they have Black affirmative action.
But how is it that they can not only discriminate, but they will get fined and penalized if they don't? If they hire too many white men, how is that gone on so long without somebody, going, what the fuck?
It's very, very bad in the credentialing space. By that I mean Ivy League schools, things like that. If you take a look at the SATs and you put it on a table, for, how shall I say this? If you look at the SAT score of a Black man or a Black woman, generally a Black woman, not a Black man, because the Black woman is a twofer. But you look at
it's Asians lose 30 points.
Yeah, but you look at it for a white guy and a Black guy, same qualifications. The Black guy is 550% more likely to get that slot. And the thing is, when you look at the white guys who get the slot, it tends to be very biased towards for lack of a better word, Jewish men.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what happens is they will complain about being, locked out of colleges or something. But at 2% of our population, they are like 30% of the white people in the Ivy League. And so they have no right to complain they're being discriminated against. And what happens is there's almost no white people compared to the population getting these credentials. And as a result, it is becoming a problem.
But like I said, this is what I use to point out, because you know how every time that's what you say, well, white people were being discriminated, and then people roll, and they don't listen. They
Yeah.
don't hear you. So what I say is, which is a fact, and especially since my daughter-in-law, my granddaughters have Korean. Asians are discriminated. How many Asians do you see in college these days? Not many. But yet they lose 30 points to bring them down. So let's say they get this score, 30 points knocked down to make way for others.
Yeah.
White people lose 25 points. Black people are up there at the top. They in fact get.
Yeah.
So,
it's a handicapping system that's as racist can be.
What,
and how insulting is that, right? Like you're stupid because of your skin color, so we're going to give you bonus points.
Well, and this is the thing too. I mean,
they don't have a problem accepting handouts. They've been trained for hundreds of years to accept the handouts.
Well, the thing is, though, I happen to know plenty of highly intelligent, capable black people. And it's just because the circles I travel in, most of the people that I would know would be highly intelligent people, no matter who they are, right?
Right.
But, I know plenty of intelligent black people who resent the fact that by virtue of the fact black people are given these sorts of legs up, that anybody who looks at them thinks that their achievements were not their own.
Yep.
And that is definitely a problem. But at the same time, because of the way black men in particular have been systematically excluded from being breadwinners, I don't have a problem with there being some sort of bias in favor of black men, as long as we got rid of all of our other immigration and sent all the people back to Mexico who belong in Mexico and all the people back to the Middle East that belong in the Middle East. If we just said, look, black men are really getting the shaft here. Let's fix this temporarily until they can catch up.
The best way to help black men is to help black culture heal from the divide that the Democratic Party has unleashed upon it.
And a big start of that is abolishing feminist crap, because feminist crap has beaten black men over the head and beaten them bloody.
Yeah, and that's why you're seeing a resurgence of a lot of red pill black dudes coming out.
Yeah, we basically have de facto matriarchy in the inner city.
Mm-hmm.
They're finally that's what's good, is we're starting to finally see the black folk come up and say, look, exactly that. Hey, I don't need you to pat me. I don't need the leg up. But I'll tell you one more thing. Two things we need to abolish. One is the feminism. Oh yeah, it's killing men and it's killing women's drive. And it's not good for anybody. It's not helping anybody. Or we need to take it back, because it initially was a better idea. The second thing, I'd say get rid of the welfare state.
Exactly. Totally. It has to be gotten rid of because it subsidizes all of the. Well,
that is what
I was talking about James about it earlier, but we basically are having more and more automation, and the jobs that we have are requiring more and more intelligent people, and yet we're importing from the world people on average with an IQ of 85, and that means that we're creating a permanent underclass because IQ is heritable. It is your fucking genes. And if you've got an IQ of 85 and your wife has an IQ of 85, your kids are going to have an IQ of 85, pretty much. And
that's by design. The inbred, that's part of it. There's a reason that happens, and it's going to keep happening for them, is because they believe in breeding, and it lowers the IQ. That's part of it. So these are what you're saying is that are not things that people don't know. I mean, because Democrats know this. This is because that underclass are their biggest voters.
Well, the thing is, we can't allow that to go on because it's going to destroy civilization. I mean, I do highly technical things. I'm an engineer. I'm a scientist. And the things that I do on a daily basis, I run a portion of the internet, for example. I make it work. I make it tick. All the things inside it. Things that you never really think about like DNS and DNSSEC and how it all connects together
I'm
and
an
everything?
IT, so I do actually.
Okay, so you know. Okay, I do that stuff at a very high level for a large portion of the internet. I'm one of the guys who votes for the Aaron dudes who run the internet and stuff. And the thing is, as things become more and more complicated, and I do electrical engineering as well, and I do biological science, you need more and more intelligent people to maintain them, to make them work. When you're building a society that is full of people who cannot create the people who are capable of maintaining the civilization, you are creating a civilization that will collapse.
Yep.
Especially when you disincentivize. It takes a lot of study. It takes a lot of work. It takes ongoing education to be able to make these things happen. And when you create a disincentive, I mean, taxes are the single highest bill in my life. I pay more for taxes than I pay for mortgage or anything. I pay in taxes. When you disincentivize that, eventually you're going to have some guy like me who's intelligent enough to be like me, get born, and he's going to look at it and say, why the fuck should I do that?
Yeah.
There's nothing in it for me.
Just
right?
smoke some weed and play some video games. Kick back.
Fuck yeah, I'm going to smoke some weed, motherfuckers, right?
Yeah, do it.
And then what happens is your society fucking collapses. And and it's happening now. Why do you think we have to import so many engineers? It's not that we don't have enough people who are innately intelligent enough. It's that those boys are being put through feminist schools.
Yep.
It's mostly boys, okay? These boys are being put through feminist schools. They're being crushed before they ever leave elementary school. Those that aren't crushed are being beaten to death with feminist nonsense in school. And then when they go to college, it's such a hostile, damned environment for them, okay?
Oh my God. I hate to cut you off, but
yeah.
You just reminded me of something that I've been wanting to talk to you about for a while. I want to collaborate with you on a project about this very exact thing. I want to create a video game about the experience of being a little boy growing up with a feminist mom and create a system of like role playing where you have like self-esteem meter that goes up and down based on your stimuli, based on your needs, and like create a system. I want to work with you somehow where like you have a self-esteem system, but you also have like an outward, need for approval system and how that affects your development, and just create like basically a simulator of what it's like to grow up as a boy in that environment. Or you can even create an easy mode where you can play as a girl in that environment.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't that be interesting?
A girl of the same intelligence would do dramatically better.
Yeah. I think
why girls outnumber boys 2-1 in college.
Yeah, and I feel like I know how to get started on it, but I want to work with you on how to make it really effective so it can really like do what it needs to do in terms of its message.
I can help you with algorithms and mathematical modeling, but I don't do game programming.
No. I'll handle that aspect of it. But I
can do the algorithms and the mathematical modeling without any trouble.
Fantastic. And I don't want to talk to you about how to create a system that is logical as well in terms of like how the psyche and gameplay will interact to really create that organic experience. But we can do that offline. But I'm really glad I had a chance to talk to you about this because I've been thinking about this for months now, and I never had a chance to bring it up to you. But I think this is something we could have a lot of, we could do some really cool stuff on. Yeah,
that's a great idea. And so meanwhile, our own kids, we're handicapping them so they can't become engineers. So we have to import. So our civilization will already collapse. You never think about where we use engineers. Every bridge, every car, everything that you do, the fact that your lights come on when you turn on the switch, it all depends on engineers. Entire modern life depends on engineers. And we grow enough people who are intelligent enough, but we crush them so that they can't do it, or they don't want to do it, or they're afraid to do it. Okay? And then we have to import them from other places in the world, right?
Yep.
But those ones, a lot of them are very hostile to us. Okay?
Yeah.
And now our civilization is this fucking close to collapse. Mm-hmm. I'm not very old, but I've looked at the numbers and I've said, you know what? I can retire in 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. But I'll tell you though, that's all the things you're saying is nothing new to those that have been doing this. And we were also this close to being exactly where you're saying we were going. Had Hillary gotten in,
it would have pushed it over the edge.
would have been a
And
nightmare.
that's why, think about it too, even engineers, it isn't just that they're importing people to get on welfare, but even engineers, because again, all they're looking for, Democrats and people in power, the elites, establishment and stuff, is, how can they get power, money,
And
and
keep
keep
power.
control. And that's why they hate the white folk, because we're smarter than that, and we'll stand up and fight. Throughout history, we always have. And I would say I would be offended to be a minority to go, well, we're not, we're just going to exploit you and pander to you because you're too stupid, and we like you anyway because we're not afraid of you, and stuff.
Sargon kind of coined that attitude really well, which is the left is really white supremacist in denial. Like they think,
Yeah, it is.
They think
It really is.
an open level playing field somehow disadvantages people of color, and that's the most racist position you can take, I think.
And the thing to keep in mind is we have to be honest, and it might. But if it does, the solution is not to change the playing field. The solution is to say, look, some people will do better in this environment. Some people will do better in that environment, just like some people are introverted, some are extroverted. And our society favors extroverts, okay? That's the reality. If you can't be a good salesman, if you can't be a good extrovert, you're going to be stuck sitting in a fucking cubicle for the rest of your goddamn life, okay? Okay, that's just the way life is.
Yeah.
But so some people are going to be in better shape in some cultures than others. We have to be willing to allow for the development. That's why we had states.
Yes.
That's why we had states. That's why we had states' rights. We had it so this state could do things one way, that state could do another way. And if all of the black people wanted to move to 6 states and do things in a way that was beneficial to black people, that should be all right.
Yeah, why not? But then you become a Confederate, right? And apparently those are racist.
Well, I don't care if they're racist as long, but here's the thing: people have a right to be what they are.
They do.
And if some groups of people have, a higher extroversion, and other groups of people have a lower IQ or what have you, look, a government that is for people with a lower IQ does not necessarily have to be low on freedom, but it has to do something like have less automation in that society, so that people with an IQ of 85 or 90 can make a living and put a roof over their head. Mm-hmm. Right now, we have a society where we're deliberately marginalizing everybody with an IQ under 100. And right. You're creating vast differentials in wealth. A person like me with a higher IQ does much better in that world. Or a person like you with a high IQ and extroversion, you do better than people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's it. That's exactly it. It's the divide and conquer. And the number one thing, as complicated as it may sound, because that's how we think in terms of every aspect, it's really this simple. All it is hand out entitlements, which is what they've done. Yeah. And no incentive to work. Once people have gotten used to that drug, and that's why there's so much anger and frustration about Trump. Trump keeps saying jobs, and people are like, jobs? You mean I have to work? Where's my entitlements? Less entitlements? So to them, and that's how they look at me too. I've worn my Trump shirt out, Trump is my president. Yeah. Several shirts.
I've got a MAGA hat. I love it.
Well, if you'll notice what I'm displaying on the screen right now, it's the concept of bread and circuses, which is, I think more relevant than ever in our country right now. People are happy to let the world burn around them as long as they have their bread and circuses to keep them entertained in their own.
They have 300 channels of garbage.
Yeah, as long as we can watch Kim Kardashian claw the eyes out of some other fucking vapid whore, we're happy. Yeah. But
that's the difference. See, that's the difference between you and the three of us, for instance. Mm-hmm. The way we see it is because we would work for something and really earn it and feel that, and plus we have the opportunity to, we're not stopped by the government of, oh, you can only do this and we're not watched. We see that. And we think other people, it's reasonable to think other people are going to see it that way too. But there are plenty of people who are like, no, I don't want my entitlements. I don't want to have to work. End of story.
That's one of the things.
Anybody who threatens that, Trump threatens that, and that's why they've even become violent. Because to them, that's, you represent taking my drug away.
Yes, exactly.
They don't go beyond that at all. There's nothing past that. and the anger and the, and then you've got, everybody exploiting that. Like, he's going to take your entitlements away.
And it's not just people who are on welfare. We have hordes, I mean hordes, of NGOs full of people. For example, a lot of churches are tied in with this whole thing of settlement of refugees. Okay? Now, these churches already emptied out long ago. They have almost no parishioners because they decided they were going to have, lesbian clergy and all this other kind of shit, and they emptied out, so they have nobody sitting in there anyway. The only way these churches survive as corporate entities is to be involved as NGOs in the settlement of refugees and things like that. And when you start threatening those, basically make work jobs where people who are basically, a lesbian army or something like that are getting paid for practically nothing. When you threaten the whole refugee thing, you're threatening them.
Yeah.
And it's not just that. There's all these other hordes of diversity trainers or, people who come around to your workplace and teach you every year about sexual harassment, how looking at somebody the wrong way can get you fired and all this other kind of shit. There are whole industries built on garbage where people make six-figure salaries doing nothing of value.
Yep.
And they're threatened too.
It serves itself.
And when all else fails, drug the public. Why do you think the war on opioids has not been undertaken until now? There are so many hands in that, and it's a threat to livelihood. No matter how corrupt they are, it's like pedophilia, even in Hollywood. No matter how bad it is and how much we're saying, hey, you've been doing this, they're like, yeah. And it pays well, so don't fuck with it.
Right.
Well, this is one thing that I've said is, if you think about it, there are laws against fully automatic weapons. When's the last time you saw a fully automatic weapon that was legally purchased used in a crime? Never. Okay? When is the last time you saw a hand grenade? Now, there are millions of hand grenades all over the world. Somehow, magically, even though we have Bloods and Crips and Latin gangs and all this other kind of shit, tons of people who would love to get their hands on hand grenades, magically, we don't have any hand grenades. They can stop something the size of my cell phone at the border 100% of the time. But they can't stop millions of pounds of fucking heroin. Huh.
They're not. It isn't that they don't see it. They're waving it through. Oh, come on in.
Of course.
Yep.
It's the threat to their life. They've been getting paid for it. So that's the problem, is when lawlessness happens, when corruption sets in, it becomes a way of life. If you can't make money the right way, I mean, how discouraged is it to go and make your money at work, and how encouraged is it, again, the welfare state or drugs and all of that. So that's why people
have found
the Halloween costume of the wall, and then they get convinced you're offended by that, and let me tell you why, because it's racist. So when you're, that's the thing, is you just have to get to the bottom instead of going, why, and being confused, or how, or, in yourself, you're having to defend yourself now. You're a fucking white male. It's the favorite one. Whatever, Sit there and go white male. I look at them now. I mean, used to be, I'd like, how stupid are these people that are, saying these things to me or don't get it, and how angry they're getting, and the protection of their ignorance. Like they run away screaming rather than hear the facts, because again, if that's all they've known and that's how they've made money, they don't know doing it the right way, because we've been doing it the corrupt way for so long. There's a whole generation who has no clue, and they don't want to.
Well, we have that. I happen to be a bit more familiar than the average person with the world of high-end escorting. And
hell yeah.
It just happens.
Let us go there. Hey, last night's subject, did he,
it
wandered
just
into.
At one point, I had a girlfriend who turned out to be one of the highest rated escorts in New York City. And I didn't know it because she libertarian and whole 9 yards and stuff like that. But eventually, of course, this is a person with no visible means of support, living pretty well. And, turns out one of the highest rated escorts in New York City. Fantastic, right? Well, think about this. This girl was making $500 a pop basically to service lawyers and shit like that, right? Now, why in the hell should a girl go to college, study her ass off, take calculus twice because she flunked it the first time, and, you know, make her money the right way? Or why should she protect her virtue so that she can marry a guy who's making $60,000 a year as a mechanic, right? Why should she do that when she can lay on her back and in 1 hour make more money than the average woman takes home in a fucking week?
Well, and it's even more insidious than that, because feminism
Without
is
taxes.
an environment where wives don't feel the need to please their husbands anymore. So therefore, these husbands find their pleasure in external sources. Their wives are probably strong, independent women that don't need no man, and they probably remind their husband of that every day, that they don't need them, and probably put no effort into their sex life. So of course they want to go out and cheat. You know, like, it's very easy to think of scumbag lawyers as lecherous, you know.
Oh yeah.
Whatever, yeah, and they probably are for the most part, but I think it's a two-way street as well. You know, if you're cheating on your wife, obviously you're missing something in your relationship, and I think
that's
feminism
often the
owns
case.
a lot of that responsibility.
You know, and
Well, like I
at
said,
one time
it's so
I was married to a
discouraged.
girl whose concept was, I don't care who you fuck as long as it's not me. So I mean, I never cheated on her, but I can understand a man wanting to do that in that situation.
Yeah, most certainly.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I mean, it's like we were saying, you know, it's so discouraged to do the right thing or to do the work and do, you know, it's so encouraged. There's so much incentive. Like back in the day, I mean, but what girls used to do or could do is stripping and makes a lot of money that way. The only problem is that there are jobs that you can do to make a lot of money that you don't have to compromise who you are and sort of give up. I mean, because nobody's going to marry you when you've been a stripper, you know, or you, and it's not. And it's not even the way other
guys
people
will. Guys will. Guys have no standards.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not even. And you also see what you don't know about that industry. And you know, I've tapped into it a little bit. You don't look at men the same way when you see.
No,
them
you do not.
Right.
They are just tools. I mean, and this is something I found out the hard way, is a girl can impersonate being a normal girl, but eventually the fact that she's a whore will affect the way she sees men and everything about it. And
doesn't even matter if he's willing, he just loves her. And that, like you said, men will, again, she has foregone that
well, it's the same as anything else. If you spend 8 hours a day making pizzas, you're not going to go home and want to eat pizza. You know, if you make it your job, then it's going to become mundane and demystified, and you know that's
why they end up on drugs and everything, because it's really goes against our carnal, you know, wanting to everything. If you notice, men and women, you know, we have the urge, we have it in us. It's our carnal knowledge. It's built into our DNA to want to couple up and have children, have families and stuff. We are fighting that. It isn't that we're not seeking it. MSM and the industry has done a real good job of helping us. So that's what I'm saying. When women are into careers at all, not just stripping in the sex industry, but careers at all, we are denying ourselves that urge.
That's often the case.
Right. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is we need to stop denying that and discouraging it and holding it down and figure out exactly what. And there's some people who don't want that. I mean, my son just got married and they don't want kids. Fine. You know, if you don't want kids, I say don't have them, because you're not going to treat them well.
Yeah.
But one thing I have said to some women about that kind of concept is women want to be career women and have their children in daycare.
Right.
And think about this. The daycare worker is the lowest common denominator, pretty much the dumbest woman who can still get a job. In most cases. There are some exceptions, but by and large, this is like the lowest of college graduates, right? Why in the world?
They don't get paid well to take care of a
baby.
No,
they do not. Why in the world would you entrust your child to someone like that?
Well, it isn't just that. It isn't just that.
And do a better job.
It's a feminist lie that tells women that they need to go have careers and having a family is some kind of form of weakness. And
deny. Yeah, actually, that's what I'm saying. It's worse than, it's not even a matter of, because we know this. And we're not, it's not that we didn't think about it or we, you know, decide, we're really suppressing that. We know this. So stop doing that and then figure it out. But as far as the daycare, I think Stefan Molyneux, he says this, and he says it very well. The children, the problem is, it isn't just the daycare worker and the mother. Children, when they, when they're babies, they bond. They need to. That it is so crucial. And the daycare is the turnaround
Yeah,
rate is
there's no
so
bonding.
high, is gone, because every time they just, first it's mommy and daddy, hopefully, and then it's the daycare, and they bond with that person even for a little bit, and then the next person. So even if you've got amazing daycare workers, they're just wonderful, beautiful people. They're not mommy,
Nope.
and they will rotate, and the child knows. I mean, it's even an animal. I'm not saying babies are animals, but even an animal knows when it's not their mother.
Yeah.
And if they bond with somebody else, they know when that's changed. They know, and you are breaking that kid's heart and soul. You do that. So
And
I
it
made
creates
it a
difficulty
point.
with them emotionally
Yes.
bonding later on in life and being able to relate to other people. Yeah.
It is crucial. That's why it's crucial. And again, we're denying all of these things, and feminists, and they're making it sound greater, like women are oppressed. No, that's our normal. What woman could? How could you carry something in your body and not want to bond with it? That's
Yeah.
not your head. And they're trying to act like and downplay it as if it's you just have the wrong thinking. And you're oppressed, and we'll pat you on the head and tell you how there's a lot of that. But again, that's why the postpartum, that's why all of that is happening, because you are suppressing that. Again, I can't see, there's no way, but I have seen it only under women who are really medicated, where they have a child. After carrying a child, if you've carried anything in your body for if something was implanted and you had to get it out after you've had it in your body for a year, you're for a second going,
in all honesty, I'd be glad to be rid of it, and I'd be pretty disgusted and not want anything to do with it ever again. But that's my feeling on the matter.
But you're right, because
but
a third of all visits women make to doctors are for psych meds. A third of all the visits women in America make to doctors are for psych meds, and it's because we have put them in this room of smoke and mirrors and tried to convince them to deny the reality of life to themselves, basically so they can be slaves on a machine to make other people rich while they're working like a hamster on a wheel to achieve nothing of value. And we've removed all the value from their life and real community and replaced it with a workplace where they have to be afraid of somebody even winking at them, and it's a disaster. But guys, I have to get off here because it's after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I was going to say it's getting pretty late. We should probably close this out. But guys, it was awesome chatting with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's nice to meet you, Harmony.
I didn't. Yeah, I was like, I went to check, YouTube, and I was like, well, don't I get an invite?
Yeah, I'm Brutus, by the way.
I should start
I'm Brutus. You know me.
Gab and Be Social.
Yeah, I'll start a thread on Be Social so you get in on the loop on when we do these streams as well.
Notifications, because until I opened or logged into YouTube and Gmail and stuff, that's when I got the notification.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll make sure to keep you in the loop if you want to keep doing these things. I just didn't know that you wanted to jump in on these other streams. But yeah, you're totally welcome, and happy to have you back next time. So.
It's great to have you. It's great to see you, James.
All of what we're saying.
All right.
All of what needs to be said, and we need to get on and start talking about it, or people don't, listen.
Yeah.
And this is good stuff. This is, I mean, really.
Yeah, good.
All right, cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Brutus, awesome. It was great seeing you again. Harmony, you look great as always. Thank you for joining. We'll see you guys next time on another exciting episode of Shitlords of the Apocalypse. Have a good night.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
And we're off the air.